I am Bonneau Ansley, an active real estate agent and founder of Ansley Real Estate, Christie's International, an award-winning Atlanta-based real estate brokerage that did over $3 billion in sales last year.
And I'm Chris Tuff, one of the first advertisers to work directly with Mark Zuckerberg in 2006. I've since gone on to be the best-selling author of The Millennial Whisperer and Save Your Asks.
And this is Brokering Billions. This podcast is about uncovering the hustle, perseverance, mindset, and tricks that are used by the top real estate agents in the country to help you take your business to the next level. How do you break the gap and go from, a good agent to a great agent, right? And then keep going up from there. Was there a time, Holly, that you remember where you were just kind of coasting along and doing the same amount year over year, and you kind of said, God, I need to really change something in my team structure or in my business to really start taking it to the next level? And then from that, it just kept feeding itself?
Right. That's such a good question. Coasting, I wouldn't use that word coasting because in New York City, someone will run you over if you coast. But yes, I was working and selling the same price range. And I really had to get under my own hood because I started seeing that as we all are, I was at that moment being my own worst enemy. And I realized that there was this connection to value. I wasn't valuing myself enough. There was some sort of punishment in there that in my mind that was saying, you don't deserve that. You don't, it was some complicated stuff. And until I started really, truly valuing myself and saying, no, wait a minute. You do deserve this. You are awesome. I had to be, as I say in my book, I had to be my own best friend and I had to marry myself. And I had to get, I'm so good at championing everyone else. I am the number one cheerleader for my clients, but I needed to be the number one cheerleader for me. I needed to be my own best advocate.
So let's talk more about your book, Holly, and for listeners out there, right? Back in the Market, Realtor's Guide to Love and Life. I'm going to make you pick your favorite part of the book, right? In terms of the application for those listening, which is your favorite thing to bring up in interviews like this that you feel like people can that they can walk away and apply to either their life or their job in real estate?
Well, I think it was that connection. I had, for those that didn't read the book, I went through a divorce that I was, really sad about. And I lost a 20-year best friend, which I also was devastated about. I chose both of these people for my soulmates forever, and that wasn't in the cards. So one, I relate that journey to real estate, but it was that aha moment where it's kind of just what I said. I stopped feeling and searching for that other person to complete me. And I started being my own best friend and my own advocate. And I'm one hell of an advocate. So if you have me behind you, your life is going to change for the better. I mean, it's like, a hurricane's kind of a negative term, but it's a hurricane in a good way.
Right.
That I can lift you up, and people, I see it in the people that I back.
Hurricane Holly.
Hurricane Holly.
Holly.
I do. It's a game changer, but I hadn't done it for myself. And in the book, I bring you on this journey, and all of a sudden it clicks that's the person that was missing was me. I was the person I'd always been waiting for.
That's
I just said that on Mother's Day.
It really is. That's profound.
Holly, what I loved about your book was it was really clear to me when you started talking about the clients, and everybody's looking for something, right? It's the ego buyer or whatever. Can you kind of speak to that part of the book? It was incredible how you related to every buyer you had, and then being able to find that buyer the correct, property for that buyer.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. That's the thing for me. That's what I absolutely love about this job, because it is being a life coach, a psychologist, and then being in the place where they're not sitting with me and leaving my office, and it's not up to them to fix their life. I'm actually in a position where I can see what's missing and go fix it for them, right? And be very hands-on about it. So some people have come to me when they've lost their spouse, through sickness, and that's so devastating. And some people have been divorced and they're moving back into the city. So they're looking for more than a home. They're looking for this new life. And so it's more about these four walls and a ceiling. It's, well, where in the city is this person? Like, what are their passions? And who can I connect them to? And what is nearby where this is really going to become the stepping stones to get them this new life that they're telling me that they want, right? And I can help get there. And that was one of the reasons I wanted to write the book, is because, that next step of finding that thing. Is it a person? Is it a career? Is it a place? Just taking my reader through that. And when we can really connect to ourselves, all of that becomes a lot more clear.
Let's talk about the power of people.
Well, I'll tell you, it's backing up a little bit to kind of give you a little background on my relationship with Gary Keller. It's I give my parents, credit first, and then people like Gary Keller second, because they poured so much into me. Even like your dad, you'll listen to me talk about my career, and it's usually not about myself. It's about how other people influence me, and I think it's super important for anybody listening. Really pay careful attention who you take advice from, and pay attention who you hang around with, because all that stuff matters, and it influences you. And whoever you want to be like, try to surround yourself around people. And then sometimes you have to kind of prune your relationships, because if things are toxic on you, you have to part ways. And it's, some people look at that as like, God, it seems a little harsh, Mark. It's like, well, it is. It depends on what kind of life you want to have. I mean, it's you have limited time and limited time on this earth. It's like, you better just choose your relationships wisely. And so back to Gary, it's he just poured so much into. There's a group of us, and I don't know if it was actually called the Eagles, but it was a very small group. We had this mastermind group of 100 people, and he kind of narrowed it down to like 10 or 12 of us. And for a while, he would have us to his office, sometimes once a month, sometimes once a quarter. And it was interesting because he would have more staffers in there than us agents or team leaders. And it was just like a research project, but he really poured into us and just helped me understand, a couple of things, a couple of key nuggets, statements I'll say is, number one is, I had to realize bigger doesn't mean it's more complicated. And so for me, is like, what drives me is not money. Money is important to me, or financial freedom. And the reason it's money, because money creates freedom. So my number one driver and my motivation in life is freedom. I can't stand accountability. I can't stand a punch a time clock. If you tried to play golf with me 2 weeks from now, I couldn't even book the tee time, because I'm like, look, I don't know what I'm doing a week from now. And it's just kind of, and I know you're like that too, dude. I know,
Mm-hmm.
I know we're not rigid people, and you're not pulling out your little calendar and going, okay, Mark, on August 20 or October 22nd at 10 o'clock, we played golf. I'm like, dude, you'd go like, I don't know, dude, I might be at the beat. I don't know. So I wouldn't do it to you. So freedom drives me, but I had to realize that bigger doesn't mean more. Okay, number one, check box. And I also had to learn perfection is overrated, because I'm a perfectionist, and I put a lot of internal pressure on. Most entrepreneurs do, but like certain people like myself and my personality, put a tremendous amount of pressure on myself to basically be perfect, which of course is a myth, and you'll never be perfect, and and if you're going to grow a business, you have to understand we're not going to do exactly this as you, but systems kind of help create the structure that gets you a very similar outcome as good. And then from there is he just really put the emphasis and pressure on hiring the right people. For people in leadership positions who are managing a team of people, you should spend 70 to 80% of your time looking for talent.
Right.
And most of the time, as good talent is not on the market. Good talent already has a job. Good talent, you just never know when you're going to need something, or what an opening is going to come up on your team, or sometimes you just hire the person just because they're got the right DNA, and you'll figure out where they fit in your organization. But the quote would be is the highest return on your investment, on any investment you'll ever make in your life, will be on a person. And so if you're going to make an investment in the next 6 to 12 months in your company, spend a lot of time looking for Michael Jordan long before he becomes Michael Jordan. And I mean, really, like Michael Jordan is expensive, right? But if you can find Michael Jordan when he's barely coming out of college, I mean, and then 2 years out and kind of has barely a little track record, but you have the right DNA, has the right behaviors, has the right ambition.
We built a data room on the back end. So you have the property website, and then for people that were interested or came back for a second showing, they got a password protected access to the data room, and then it had all of the due diligence. So conservation, any conservation information, any of the utility history, service providers, all of that kind of stuff. So when it came right down to it, we had all of that in there so that the two buyers that ended up being in competition could have all of their due diligence done in advance of having kind of that final accepted offer. It caused, the buyer that ended up winning removed contingencies in 7 days because they had so much information. It was so thorough, and that was just, it gave everybody just a big peace of mind, set a record.
That's a great nugget. I've never had a data room for big listings. I've never sold a $65 million listing. I'll start off by saying that. But having a data room with plans, utility information, and everything in between, I think is a great thing to have. I got a question. So, Julie, for a lot of our listeners, some are at a level of selling over 100 million. Some are at a level of selling 3 million and 5 million. Some are newer agents. What was your turning point as being a good agent, right? And saying, okay, I want to be a great agent. I want to be the number one agent in my region. What was that turning point? Where were you when that happened? And how did your career kind of go from starting to selling $327 million worth of real estate? Because you just didn't start one year going from 100 million to 2 million to your 327 year, right? There was a progression there, and I'd love to know that progression for our listeners. And what was that turning point where you said, okay, I'm going to be $100 million agent, and when did that happen? Yeah,
it's interesting because it was, I don't really remember when we actually went to 9 figures. I am somebody that has always focused on the top line and has always wanted to make sure that every year we're doing more and more, and we're kind of touting our sales and our success, and that we're setting records and we're kind of pushing the envelope. My husband is very much the one that is kind of the bottom line and really, more driven towards making sure that the business is sustainable. And so but I think, nobody that is kind of looking to be that elite agent ever sets out to be average. I just don't believe we have that in us, and so it's one of those things where I looked around and said, okay, let's identify what we can do in the marketplace to really set ourselves apart. And, as you look at the generational kind of transitions that happen in real estate, a lot of times, so many, kind of more established brokers are, they're taking vacations, or they're going to their other home in a retirement destination or whatever. But that was the first thing that we did, was we started to make presentations to some other, internally to other members of the real estate community, and saying, hey, listen, just co-list with us. we'll take 40%, you take 60, we'll do everything while you're in Arizona or Florida or wherever you're spending your winters. But I want my name on the sign with you, and I want people to see my name wherever it is. And so, I think being great collaborators has always been that's helped us to just grow our business and kind of amplify our voice. And then of course, being involved, I'm a joiner, my husband is a joiner. We're involved in every nonprofit you could possibly imagine. I mean, I was the social for my sorority for 2 years. So you kind of think about, like, I love to entertain. And I think all of those things just added up to incredible success and being able to monetize it far beyond where we ever thought we were going to be able to.
Thad, you were way ahead of the game. Even when you named your new company back in 1999 or 2000, you named it the symbol, right? This is during the .com boom, and nobody knew what was, right? But they decided to use everywhere, and I just thought that genius. You're just 2 steps ahead of everybody that way, which is really cool.
That was lucky, I think. Now, don't you remember in 1999, we were all day traders. Everybody was day trading tech stocks, and we thought we were geniuses. We were making a fortune. And so I thought, and we had, and for us, when we were starting this company, we didn't have a budget because we knew the brokerage we were working with was not going to pay us. It was just that kind of guy he was. And so I wanted to come up with a mnemonic device. I always remembered things through mnemonic devices. My wife is Bo Derek Michael Jordan, 10/23. That's her birthday. And so I thought, okay, what type of mnemonic device can we come up with? And with the @ I was like, I just gotten an email address. It's 1999. I'm like, if they can think about us every time they hit this number 2 on their keyboard, that's going to think in their brain, they're going to think of Thad when they hit number 2. And so I said, okay, let's use the @ And then we just figured out first it was at home. We couldn't trademark it. And so it became @properties, which ended up being pretty good. But to remind you guys back then, remember when you needed a phone number, you called directory assistance 411?
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many people called 411 and said, may I have the phone number for @properties? Nobody. Get the phone number because they'd say the ampersand, and that would be the and sign. And then it would say the sign above the number 2. Well, we can't look for a phone number that way. So it seems great now, but back then it did have some challenges. They thought we were a online company, not a traditional brokerage. So it's cool now, but it didn't come without some warts.
As a marketing guy, Thad, one of the things that I appreciate a lot is obviously your view of, I think, just the disruption you've been able to do with right, and always thinking ahead to what is next. But one of the other pieces that I kind of read a lot around was the importance of this love campaign for you guys, and bringing the heart to an ecosystem where relationships are everything. Talk a little bit about what that was for you, and kind of what the campaign did in terms of where you are now.
Yeah, it's funny because it goes back a long time. So my dad was my best friend. He was also a psychologist. And anytime for him, it was all about love. There was nothing more powerful than love. And we were in a meeting and I said, I really want to come up with a campaign, something universal that everybody will love, something simple. It's almost like a dot on the paper that you're not distracted by a lot of things, but people have got to love it. And I was like, great. So I wrote love on the board. And then I knew of an artist that was very popular in Chicago, Matthew Hoffman. He came up with a saying that life is beautiful. You are beautiful, all sorts of things. And you see him all over Chicago. And so I paid him to paint the word love on a garage door in Bucktown, kind of a cool, hip neighborhood. And it started becoming a really trending as a hotspot for people to get a photo in front of, right? So you'd see love all over social media. We put it in billboards, T-shirts, hoodies. We got magnets on the back of cards. Luckily, I bought that font and word from him and trademarked it. And it ended up being probably the best campaign that we've ever done. It's never ended. It's still alive. You see it thousands of times if you're aware in Chicago throughout the day. Not throughout the day, but it's on thousands of cars. It's everywhere. And it's the best thing we've ever done because it brought to the community something that that everybody longs for, which is love. And it tied the company at properties. At is not even on the word love, but everybody knows when they see that word love in that font that that's at properties. And so it accomplished more from a marketing perspective than all of our other campaigns combined. And it's possible to quantify how much business we've gotten from like that. It's not like you're measuring clicks or eyeballs online. But I'll have to say that I'll give that credit for so much of our growth, so much of our culture, our credibility, the internal workings of which makes it really sticky. And it's our commitment to that campaign of love and love altruistically as a culture, which I think keeps a lot of people here and has allowed us to grow in the face of lots of challenges.
So when talking to people that sell as much real estate as you, right? There's two sides of the day, right? There's the urgency side of the day, and that is returning emails, returning text, returning phone calls. And then there's the important side of the day, where a lot of our people that have been on this show have been blocking off to figure out the future and to time block to say, okay, here's how I'm going to be better next year and change the systems, right? Very, very important to separate the two. Do you separate the two at all, or do you just roll? Like you wake up and you just go for it and just kind of.
I just roll. I'm trying, I'm getting there. I need to go there. I'm not there yet, but
okay.
I do plan, I'm planning my marketing for fourth quarter, which is, for the season, I call it. I used to just be throwing money, just spend, and I'll try this, I'll try that. Now I kind of get it. And now I kind of understand and I can plan. And I think it's very, very important. To have an end goal and to set goals. I like that. And I now have the support staff to where I can stop and think about the future. And am I going to grow a team? I do have a couple, Peter's now doing his thing. And then I've got I have brokers come in from, I just added a girl from Compass from New York. But these are folks that know what they're doing. So they will just come take their New York business, all their clients that are moving here. So I do need to do that. I haven't, but
Elizabeth, it's a great thing to do. In my last several years of doing this, I've decided, okay, I'm growing my business in Atlanta. God, it's going great. But what else can I be doing to grow? And in that thought process, I said, well, I'm going to start a team Bonneau, which is my team of 9 people. Let's start working on new developments, right? So we work to get a Coulter building in Atlanta. Coulter's out of West Palm, as you know. And we took over the exclusive marketing of a 22-story building with 43 units. So that was a great kind of add-on that I kind of said, okay, I want to add on that. And then another year came by and I said, okay, I'm going to add a whole nother location. That location's 5 hours away from Atlanta. That's on the coast of Georgia, Sea Island, Georgia. And the thought behind that was, golly, all of my clients, right, that are going to have a second home are probably going to be looking in the St. Simons, Sea Island area. Might as well try to open up something there to still work and give the same support and quality that we do in Atlanta to those same clients that already know us to go buy something at Sea Island. And Sea Island has a much higher price point than Atlanta does. I closed over 30 million in July in St. Simons. And guys, that was an afterthought of just kind of starting and saying, okay, how can I continue to grow as a team, as a person? And I did the same thing down on 30A in Florida. Got a Florida brokerage license, got a great partner down there, Jimbo, on 30A. And we're selling a lot of property down there, right? And all that was developed in this time block where I've got to say, how am I going to keep doing what I'm doing and keep growing, right? So you're kicking ass, right? You're just doing great. You're 6 years in. My advice is just to kind of maybe time block and do some important side to figure out where else you want to go. Do you want to have a team in Miami? Do you want to go up to Jupiter? How can all that work? And that also goes back to expanding your team a little bit.
Well, so 95% of listeners right now, Elizabeth, would do anything to be in your position, right? And I want to ask one last question from you. What's the one thing for those listeners that want to be the Elizabeth in their market? What's the one thing that you can suggest to them doing differently, or what you've done differently? What's that one tactic that you feel like they can benefit from to be that Elizabeth in their market?
Get listings. my objective was to get listings.
Mm,
So
great advice.
when I started, I would time block and sit down, and I call it dialing for dollars. I would search our property appraiser, see who should be selling, and I would find their phone number and call them.
So simple, yet that's the backbone, guys. This is really, really important, right?
Really important.
That's the backbone of our business agents. It's control the inventory, get the listings, right? If you've got the listings, you already have the buyers, right? You can get a 6%er, right? Or whatever's comparable in your marketplace, get the bonus, but also by having that listing, you get other listings. That's the best billboard for you, right? That's the thing, guys. So the big takeaway, get the listings, guys. Elizabeth, you've been absolutely awesome. This has been one heck of a show, Chris.
Awesome. So good. Elizabeth, thank you for your time. This has been
Thank you, guys.
You are fantastic. I'm Beno Ansley signing off.
Yeah, this is Brokering Billions, baby.